Okay, let's give it a minute so that the audience can fill up. Sure, lots of your sleepy ass are waiting up after the merch. Okay, this looks good. Good evening and good morning, Unicorn fam. Welcome to the Crypto Unicorns Weekly Town Hall number 15 with Aron Beierschmitt, Crypto Unicorn CEO and co-founder. I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Delta Unicorn. Say hi.
Hi.
This is the weekly town hall number 15, where you can ask your questions regarding anything and everything crypto unicorns. I am absolutely bursting with secrets. The Laguna Games team has been hard at work, watching, listening, and acting on the wishes of the community. Into the game, we are bringing quality of life, depth, nuance, and more. With each release, we hope to bring greater joy to the unicorn fam. We've got Aaron here, ready to spill the tea and spread the hype with Aaron's updates. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, Sparkly. Thank you as always for the lovely intro. Let's dive in. Lots to talk about up front, and we'll dive into questions from all our lovely community members. Let's address the elephant in the room, native delegation. Sorry, sip of coffee, trying to get really loaded up today. So history on native delegation, so we're on the same page. Obviously, we initially committed to launching native delegation. After launch, everyone who is here or was here knows that in the fight, the firefighting that occurred post-launch, we dropped everything to focus on those issues. Once resolution was on that, it was a major sprint to deliver the land vending machine loot boxes as well as the much-loved performance improvements. As we were pushing towards that release, we were approached by both Capital DAO and Narval around their delegation solutions. So the thing I want to make really clear is I absolutely kept native delegation off the core game team roadmap to reduce the amount of work on our plates, and I stand behind that decision. Now, it's clear to me that community members want native delegation back on the roadmap, but generally agree that it should not divert ongoing, or I should say pivot ongoing work and priorities, namely the quests and the jousting release. Our one and only DeBose put forward, I think, a rather simple but elegant solution around adding guest functionality to our system, guest account functionality to our system. We spent a few days this week evaluating the feasibility of this, and we do believe it to be achievable. It does require our infrastructure as a service provider to make an update on their account system to tie guest accounts with effectively the new login system that they wrote for Connect Wallet at the very beginning of this effort last year. And then, of course, it will take client server work on our end. We believe it's possible to deliver native delegation after jousting. This is very much the simple feature that DeBose proposed. It certainly won't include things like automatic payment splits or restrictions around buildings. A thing I will make clear is we build games, not enterprise software. Those wishing to use delegation today, you now have two viable options available. I've seen the complaints and the concerns. At the end of the day, some people will use it, some people won't. I am fine putting native delegation back on the roadmap. I'm not going to resist that. It's clearly the community's wish. I think if there is a desire to see it sooner than post jousting, that's when we need to see a proposal come forward and the community support behind that proposal, because that'll be the first time in which the community is directly requesting via DAO governance for Laguna to pivot the roadmap. So based on my understanding and the feedback that I've received both through Discord and DMs, I don't think that's going to be a problem. But I do want to make it clear that right now, native delegation from us will not launch until after jousting. But we do plan to put it back on the roadmap, and it will be very much kind of DeBose's proposal, which I thought was rather elegant in its simplicity, but still very powerful in covering the bases for people. Kind of further to this point on the living roadmap, the one and only time traveler last week put forward a request around us sharing a living roadmap that the community can view right in real time. In response to that, I completely agree with the wish and the request. We've put together a Notion doc that ranks all the features we have ahead of us, expanding off the roadmap from the white paper, which of course hasn't been updated in some time. And I think the right way forward is going to be in the future, as we make any changes or additions to this roadmap, we'll post in developer notes, providing context around that change. And again, anyone coming in that's new to our community, we all have one singular link that we can hand out to people that allows them to see what is in progress versus upcoming and the stack rank prioritization of our features. So I definitely really understand what Time Traveler is kind of coming forward with. It is hard to follow all the AMA updates. The entire purpose of this space is that the game evolves based on community sentiment and feedback. From the beginning, we believed things would be flexible and change based on the needs of the community, right? So this living document, I think, will allow us to bring way more transparency around what we're working on, and as well as how we're kind of prioritizing the future sequence of features. And that also gives the community an opportunity to come forward and say, we would prefer, tribes before XYZ other feature. And we can begin that combo, build momentum around it, potentially do a DAO vote to make the change in situations where we need to really temperature check with SRBW holders. So that's native delegation. That is a living roadmap. Now let's kind of dive into the next three releases. So today we are going live with 1.4. You guys have probably already seen the update. If you haven't already, check it out in Discord. We've got a lot of pictures and videos and stuff. But it includes updated unicorn inventory and selector UI, class filtering, energy filtering, breeding point filtering, updated contextual menus for buildings, particularly within the workshop, so that you understand the specific requirements, like, hey, you need a unicorn of a certain class to craft this item, as well as being able to see how much of an item you have without having to scroll through that ridiculous inventory list on the right, which is great. Farm collection visual effects and flow update. So kills the number of clicks by 50% or reduces the number of clicks by 50%. It looks sexy as fuck. I'm excited to see that go live today. It also includes double click on buildings to bring up the menus. You don't have to scroll down to click plant or, craft or whatever the action button item is, which is great. It's super, super, super fluid now. LOD2 edit enhancements, that was still kind of a lingering performance improvement, so that is now in. And then we fixed these gas costs being low on blockchain transactions. So you now have a static cost that, based on the last 30 days of Polygon data, really should put you in the 30 to 15 second range in terms of getting your transaction confirmed. In the next release, we're working towards a more sophisticated version of that takes the last number of kind of blocks and then proposes gas based on the current network state. This first version is a little bit more blunt. In certain situations, you might want to go in and reduce gas. Obviously, it's up to you. But the thing we wanted to avoid is the issue we have now, where it's recommending 2.5 GUI, which is stupid. Cool. The last thing going out today is an in-flight request tool. This is a big upgrade in our ability to actively resolve, or I would say efficiently resolve, any lingering breeding or evolve issues that do occur. Cool. 1.5 is then the next release, targeted for the last week in September. This includes the breeding points refactor. The less breeding points you have, the more energy a unicorn has going forward. This also includes the building refactor, which will fix building bonuses post transfer, so the bonuses will go across no matter how many times the NFT changes hands. For anyone who happened to transfer a land prior to this fix, we're also going to be able to run a script that will re-roll the number of bonuses you should have received. It won't get you exactly back to where you were, but it'll be somewhere very close and in the ballpark, given we're just going to re-roll the number of rolls across that land. What else? So the seed bag improvement will be coming in 1.5 last week in September. This is a feature in which you craft a seed bag, and now basically you only need to plant one day instead of 3 times. We'll have a higher energy requirement, so those who have been breeding corns are going to certainly benefit on that front. There'll be a number of additional performance improvements with 1.5 around improved inventory load times. The farm collection is a really great effect. For some people, you might need to switch on performance mode to keep the frame rate up where you want it. Generally, it was within an acceptable range kind of across the board with this release, but we do have a few things under the hood we can do in the 1.5 release to improve that further. And then looking out for the 1.6 release targeted for likely mid to late October, you're going to see quests released. The internal goal is to have that done so that we can have our first big Halloween quest event, which I'm super fucking pumped about. Audio system will come in. We've really just got the bare bones of audio in right now, but I'm really excited to get updated sound effects in the game, as well as pave the way for all of the jousting the jousting arena music and sound effects. In addition to that, more performance improvements, dynamic gas estimation, and I heard a rumor that there will be stash in, stash out in-game improvements coming as well. So you can do arbitrary amounts out, arbitrary amounts in, all within the stash feature inside of the game. Alrighty, that was a lot. Let's end with a couple of quick fun things. So we've been building a data warehouse that gets updated hourly. We can then expose that data warehouse to anyone who is interested in accessing that data and building tools and dashboards on top of it. It's also going to enable us to take off-chain data and run leaderboard events like we did with the Summer of Love. The Summer of Love leaderboard event was purely on-chain because we were tracking the breeding, the evolution, the hatch events, things of that nature on-chain. This data warehouse is going to allow us to bridge into the leaderboard API that Moonstream provides us and allow us to do, and again, bring off-chain data into this kind of effectively on-chain leaderboard where then, we reward you via the claim site and all that good stuff. So that's a very exciting feature. I've been really happy to see the analytics team get out ahead on. If you are wanting access to that data warehouse, be on the lookout. Community will be circulating a sign-up form here in the near future. Next, Jousting gameplay trailer. The art and engineering teams have been hard at work on Jousting. We have in-engine Unity-based gameplay footage that I think is going to blow people away. We're going to be capturing footage kind of over the next few weeks through the end of September, and then compiling that into a sexy gameplay trailer for everybody to check out early in October. And last but not least, we have the Jousting CGI trailer, which is the next CGI trailer in kind of the sequence after the farming one was released yesterday. We're going to be doing a casting call on that front. Anyone who would like their unicorns featured should be on the lookout for that announcement, as well as what you need to do to get your unicorn in the running for our very first casting call. And we're going to be continually doing these casting calls throughout, obviously moving away from some of the team-owned unicorns that were featured in the farm trailer to purely community-owned corns in the future. Should be a lot of fun and very excited to see that come out. Alrighty, Sparkly, I am finally done. Let us get to questions.
Whoa, I feel like my brain just exploded. That's just so much. Oh my god.
We
No
remain
words.
very busy. We remain very busy, that's for sure.
We are builders, that is for sure. Thank you so much, Aaron. We're stopping at the end of the hour, so heads up. Let's get this town hall started. We have a 3 questions per person rule. We'd love to answer all of your questions, but we have limited time. If a question has been answered previously, you'll have to ask something else. To ask the question in voice, please press the request to speak button. The button looks like a raised hand. You can queue up at any time. Once we accept your request, you'll see a green bar at the top of your Discord. Click accept to begin speaking. When you are unmuted, feel free to ask your question. We also have questions from members of the Unicorn fam who couldn't make it on stage for one reason or another. It's on the Town Hall Questions channel. Take note that we prioritize spoken questions over written ones. You can also head on stage and ask any question that you may find in that channel. First up, though, are anonymous questions. Anonymous questions are a relatively new feature. Learn more about them after this town hall. Okay, so right now we have 4. First one is Aaron. Hi. Could you please describe in a few words what the roadmap for the Treasury is? How many percent of it are you going to spend on marketing, second party creators, CGI trailers, and anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we have 24 million or so in the treasury. I think a little over that. I don't know the exact number between the Polygon and ETH Gnosis safes. Just overall, you're looking at roughly 70% of that is going to go to the core team development effort over the next few years. Second party stuff, about 6%. If we see those things begin to work well, we'll double down on them. And so we could see that increase over time. But right now it's a pretty small amount, especially for all the content that we're going to be getting. And so I feel pretty happy with that being around 6%. And then the remainder is going to be, so 24%, I guess, is marketing. And that marketing, of course, doesn't get spent over a couple of months. It likely gets spent over, the next 18 months. And of course, the primary in free-to-play mobile, right, it was all about customer acquisition costs being lower than your lifetime value of those customers. Lifetime value is strange in this world because people can both enter and exit, but you can track it based on treasury inflows of primary and secondary cells into our treasury. And so I'm throwing out numbers and percentages and timelines now. We will make adjustments if treasury inflows are lower than expected. Obviously, we'll make adjustments to conserve treasury runway. If the opposite is true, the kind of hope here, and I think there's a lot of potential for this to occur. If treasury inflows are a lot higher, obviously we'll maintain burn, if not increase it further to grow the IP and the overall ecosystem. So that was more than a few words, but hopefully that answers the high-level question on treasury.
All right, thank you so much. Now I'm just waiting on that anonymous person to see if they have any follow-up questions. And I guess they don't. Okay, next one. Why are Mythic Keystones so cheap to craft? Currently, Mythic Keystones are trading at 0.025 ETH, while rares are at 0.03 ETH. Is it possible to increase its value?
The market determines the value of those keystones. I don't have the answer for you there. Right? What is the value of Mythic Land over time? It seems like a pretty good thing to scoop up. Obviously, you need to put in ETH into the land vending machine, so there's a little bit of a delta on that front. Ultimately, the land vending machine is a very innovative design in which the supply of new land can grow or shrink based on the demand for that land. So with growth, everything moves up and to the right. I'm not very concerned about that discrepancy. Given it, though, I'm likely going to pick up some Mythic Keystones myself today.
Yeah, would be a good time to pick them up. Okay, no follow-up questions for that either. Next up, with the recent critiques on token staking to get more tokens, how do we plan to avoid the same fate as Ape? I think he means ApeCoin and other DAOs. Do we have plans to distribute more RBW to players throughout the gameplay than passive stakers?
Yes, I love hearing that question because it lines up exactly with Staking V2. Staking V2 is in progress with our partners at Vault who manage our current staking contract. They are effectively modifying and adjusting that contract so that we can allow active players to boost their staking rewards. That boost will be tied to the player avatar slash player profile system that we announced in the Roadshow deck, in which all the badges that we've been giving out, which are really just scratching the surface of what we intend to do there, kind of become your merit badge patch, if you will. They have XP tied to them. That XP increases your player level, and that will all be tied in with the boosting system. So the more active and engaged you are in the game, the higher boost you are, uh, the higher boost that it is possible for you to get. And so someone who is both staking kind of maximally, let's say for a year, and actively playing and engaging with the game as well as the community is going to receive more rewards than someone who is simply passively staking RBW. I think there's a lot of alignment between what the community wants on that front, zero resistance on my side. I'm very, very excited to kind of get that rolled out. Obviously, we need audits and things against the contracts. So my hope is that's landing sometime in November. But as we get more confidence on that front, I'll keep the community kind of posted. But that's absolutely the direction that we plan to go in. I think it's the healthiest for the overall economy. And I think we might do kind of a migration event as well that'll kind of act as a nice little boost for, or early boost for participants who have been here and are actually migrating their stake.
All right. That's exciting. In the words of our beloved mod Terrorect, max staking plus max playing equals max RBW. Let's see. All right. Another question. Will token unlocks go as scheduled for the team and investors? Do we have plans to minimize monthly dumps during unlocks?
They will currently go out as scheduled. That's something that I am actively discussing with our investor group. We have smart investors. We have investors who are here for the long term. I didn't pick them if they weren't. And so, we'll talk about it more as it approaches. Right now, I give a shit way more about fucking growth, and that is kind of where my focus is at. We have about 6 months until that becomes a problem. And I'm not really worried about it. The idea that investors are going to fucking dump month one is the silliest thing I think I've ever heard, because they've got another fucking 2 years. And if they dump immediately, it will destroy confidence in our ecosystem, in our product, in our token. It will signal that they are short term, that they are not in it for the long haul. And again, it will collapse everything we have worked to build. So this idea and this narrative that our investors are just waiting for March 2023 to dump is very silly in my opinion, because it will destroy confidence. And they've got another 23 months of unlocks. It will destroy everything that they care about. So even if you don't trust investors, which you probably never should, just generally, like, they have a baked in incentive to see that token price succeed over the long term in a way that anyone who is purely liquid within our community today doesn't. It's also should be noted that all of the year locks from our for anyone who staked immediately for a year in the copper launch, you're unlocking before any of us as well, right? So I feel very good about how that is set up, and there is some baked in alignment of incentives given the desire the investors have to obviously produce the highest possible return they can over the coming years. So locking it up further isn't on the table right now. Again, anything is possible over time based on where we're at. But generally, there's alignment around all of our investors to help us grow. A great example is TCG, the Charon Group. They've been incredibly helpful in connecting us with many of the streaming services, WME and CAA, which are the largest talent agencies in Hollywood. They collectively represent just about everyone in Hollywood. Like, we are actively focused on blowing this the fuck up because that matters to us all. So sorry for the rant, but that's one that, is kind of this weird narrative in the space. I get some projects have absolutely seen that happen to them. But part of the reason I'm calling this out is like, you guys are going to know we're doxing the fucking wallets of our investors. There's no reason not to. If there is a bad actor within the crew that I did not root out in my diligence of our investors, we're all going to know. And that's kind of the beauty of the space and a bit of the double-edged sword here. But you should also look at if we picked the right partners, they are maximally incentivized to see this thing grow over the long term. And I think that is the advantage that this space kind of has. All that said, if we deem it necessary, we could make changes on that front. So I don't want to remove it fully from the table. There's my off-the-cuff rant, stealthy and sparkly.
I love it. The community is playing a little mini game right now. They're counting the number of F-bombs.
Oh God, yeah. I
They
had too
are
much
having
coffee
fun.
this morning, so they're popping out with way more frequency than my mom would appreciate right now. But I think that's okay. I'm like 32 now, an adult somewhat.
Sorry, Aaron's mom.
Yep, sorry.
Okay, we have a follow-up question. Some are talking about the effect of net unit mission over burn. Many players are playing for profit instead of fun. This can be likened to a pair Ponzi structure like with SLP and Probata. What's our long-term plan to avoid this and follow the path of other P&Es?
Long term, it comes via two avenues. The core game team, the Laguna Games team, continuing to ship our core roadmap features. So quests adds a lot of additional Unim syncs just generally to that system, or they're tied to that system. Then, of course, you have jousting. With the launch of jousting and entry fees in Unim and RBW, you're going to have a very constant rotation of Unim and RBW from the winners to the losers, as well as a 10% treasury rake. So with the battle loops, I care a lot about a high number of game sessions or tournaments being run per day, because that will increase treasury inflows. And of course, Unim flowing into the treasury is ultimately burned, right? And so, like again, people talk about like inflation, but we're in this like really low growth period in terms of the number of new DAO. As we scale that, the farm sim is absolutely deep enough as new people enter and have to progress their land and begin to grow that to soak up the small amount of Unim that is being inflated per day. So with growth, that immediately becomes deflationary again, as we saw it during the early growth phase as people onboarded into the game and began to progress. Obviously, with the battle loops coming out, you have a constant rake into the treasury, as well as just there are more losers than winners in every single one of the battle loops that we're launching, right? So you're going to have this net flow of Unim and RBW getting redistributed to the winners in that front, and the losers obviously having to come back to the table and grab more. And then on top of that, the second party games, I think, are going to add kind of gasoline to that fire as they launch and come out. You've got opportunities to see even more game sessions being run per day. And we're there, right? You look at the total amount of Unim that exists today and the number of breeds and evolves that would consume that. It's a very small number relative to our potential for growth. Like we've got over 60,000 corns to date and about 2,000 what I would consider 2,000 active players, right? Pegaxis 20K, Zedrun hit the hundreds of thousands. Like, look at the growth potential, and we don't have nearly a loop. So generally, I think we have a really, really solid plan on that front. And the easiest way to flip it deflationary is to increase the demand. And so again, it all kind of flows back to the focus on growth and getting the number of new DAO or new connected wallets per day up as high as possible in the coming months.
All right, thank you so much, Aaron. So that's the last question that we have for anonymous questions. Now let's move to people who are requesting to speak. First off, we have Blackfield. Please come up to the stage. Hey, good morning. Well, good
Hey, hey.
evening for you.
Yeah, good morning. Aaron, you just mentioned that there might be an update in the next couple of weeks, which may require performance mode for some machines. Did I hear that right?
No, so the update today with the berry collection, we did notice on low-end devices that the frame rate drops a bit if you're in magic mode, right? And you're collecting all those berries. And of course, this is like if you're just really trying to run through it very quickly. And so toggling, and obviously, we're shipping that release based on that. So it will only affect the devices that are kind of on the lower end. And again, you just flip to performance mode and you won't have any problems with that. But it's very specific to the new farm collection visual effect that's kind of popping. And then with 1.5, which is targeting the last week of September, the next release, not the release today, we have a kind of a performance improvement that should resolve that even for the low end devices. Sorry for the confusion.
Okay. It's just, I'm asking, I know it's not supported, but I'm still one of the few guys fighting for the mobile game survival. And it's pretty slow on mobile already. That's why I was wondering.
What device do you play on, if you don't mind me asking?
It's Samsung S20.
Okay.
Well, follow up on that question, maybe. Is there any way or any easy way that you can switch by default to performance mode when people try to log in with a mobile phone?
That is certainly possible, yes.
That would be really cool. Or just, simply make it possible that we can change the mode on mobile. We can access the menu, but not change the mode. I don't know why.
I wasn't aware of that limitation on mobile.
That would be so cool.
So that's something that, well, the design team is in this call. So they will record that and we'll look into it. All right.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Blackfield.
Okay, thank you so much, Blackfield. Next up, we have Johnny Fiat. Please come up to the stage.
GM, thanks for bringing me up, guys. Really awesome commentary so far. Very excited about the data warehouse. I'm a Power BI nerd, and kind of leading into my question. Very interested in active users and growth, attrition, turnover, returning users, things like that. So you had mentioned like 2,000 active users, which is an incredible start. As you think about active user growth, I'm not sure if you do forecasts or even waste your time thinking about like having to get that granular with thinking about that. But what are like the, I think we're all aware of the catalysts over the next 12 to 18 months in terms of, bringing new users in. Mm-hmm. But what is in your opinion, what is the most important catalyst for bringing in new active users and keeping them, like sort of the stickiness factor?
The nice thing is we have a very sticky game to begin with, right? The retention over 120 days is something north of 70%, which is just coming from mobile free to play. That's an insane number. Obviously, we flipped the script here. People have purchased assets, they're accessing the game. And so, yes, there is this expectation of far higher retention on that front. But it's great to see. So, I'll break out our growth plans into a three-pronged approach. I think the smallest portion of the growth and kind of marketing budget is going to go towards influencers and what I would call awareness campaigns. So we're going to be pushing, the CGI trailer got a great reaction on socials, kind of very happy to see that get kind of spread around our network. We're going to be pushing some marketing dollars against very concentrated segments. So the crypto Twitter crowd, if you're on Twitter a lot, you're likely going to see, the video. We're going to do a little bit of testing on YouTube, specifically targeting kind of people who follow crypto YouTubers just to see. Again, these are very small kind of experiments designed around awareness. Obviously, the influencers, we have 3 signed up. You'll start to hear from them in the coming weeks. That is, again, very focused on just general awareness building. That's the smallest segment and kind of the tip of the spear. The next segment is a very targeted set of campaigns where we are going direct to consumers via their wallets. So this will look at the form of offers, raffle invites, things that get dropped into wallets that attract the consumer to come, the player to come to our website to potentially get lands and corn to start to play. That eliminates the barrier to entry in terms of grinding through OpenSea and figuring out what assets you need. Imagine getting an invite to then get a bundle and coming in and winning that bundle, and then of course, coming in to kind of play the game. The wonderful thing about that is we're going to track it like you would free-to-play mobile marketing, right? Like traditionally, I would go to Facebook, I'd spend $100,000 targeting a specific cohort, let's just say males 30 to 50 in the United Kingdom, right? And then we would look at that campaign, and the results are going to be a certain number of installs, usually a huge chunk of them immediately churn, and you hope a few percent stick around, and a few percent of that, actually ultimately end up spending. I see a really interesting opportunity that is kind of a Web3 native strategy where we are market buying assets from the existing player base. So we're spending marketing dollars with our existing community and then effectively allowing people to ramp into the game for free. And again, targeting these cohorts is a really beautiful thing because I don't have to go to fucking Zuckerberg this time around. We're doing a lot of on-chain analysis to target potential wallets. I'll just throw out an example. Let's say Pegaxi players or Zedrun players, especially in the lead up to jousting. Like it's going to be worth targeting those cohorts, looking at identifying bots and flippers, removing them from the list. And again, we'll track the performance of these campaigns to see, all right, 10% of people that got it, just went back to OpenSea and flipped it, right? 20% onboarded in and came into the game and played for 2 weeks and then churned. And we'll start to identify, okay, why did they churn at this point? What happened there, et cetera. And I see a really interesting opportunity to build daily login flows are like the crux of early retention in mobile free-to-play games, right? So you would have like usually a day 0 through day 30 like login bonus that you're grinding towards. We can create similar campaigns around that and bake them into like the NFT offer that we give to players. So we can say, oh, this player came in as a result of this campaign, which probably takes the form of a, not necessarily a badge, but like a voucher that would be soul bound to that wallet. And again, it's a really, like this is, you hit on, Johnny, you hit on exactly what I'm kind of focused on and spending most of my time on now, which is like, how do we, via Web3 native approaches, grow? And I'm very excited to begin to deploy these campaigns, in the coming months. The third and final part of the strategy is bootstrapping protocol-owned liquidity. We have intentionally kept Unim liquid, and that time is over now. We need to build and fill the pool and increase the lower the slippage, increase the ability to on-ramp into this economy. And you're going to start to see that happen in the very, very near future. And I view that as kind of the third approach, where again, we're market buying assets from the existing player base to go out and build that liquidity. We're not minting this shit out of thin air, even though that would be within our power. And so I think the beauty of Web3 gaming is our advantage we have on the marketing front, where a Web2 game has got to go to Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube to try and acquire a consumer. They're giving a middleman money for access to a consumer, where in Web3, we can both bake incentives within our game to attract players, to attract consumers, as well as do targeted offers given all of the publicly available on-chain data around the type of games this player, this wallet has interacted with, their lifetime value to those games. And again, we can target groups that We expect to have higher retention versus groups that are clearly flippers or bot rings or, just here for the pure speculative aspects. So as with everything, it starts with a bunch of experiments across cohorts. We learn from those experiments and we kind of grow. And I think, Johnny, I would love to engage any members of the community that want to help support post access to the warehouse of data, the effectively what we call attribution, like how are these campaigns performing, right? And helping us identify player bases to target that we think are going to be, the best for us. And the last thing I'll say on this just generally is, we launched the farm sim, which is the most complex to on-ramp into. You need corns, you need land, you need to pick a strategy. There's all these things to produce. There's all these things to potentially buy and sell. It is the most difficult experience that we plan to release in terms of on-ramp. With jousting, oh shit, you just need one corn and you can come in and start to joust, right? And so over time, I expect user acquisition, player acquisition to get better and better and better, because the on-ramp to getting in is going to be so much smoother, right? And then obviously, the most dedicated players are going to naturally gravitate to what is and will always be the engine of the economy, which represents kind of the farm sim. Any follow-ups on that stuff, Johnny? But you definitely hit the nail on the head with kind of where I'm spending my time and what I care most about, which is growth.
Yeah, absolutely looking forward as opposed to back. I'm obviously taking, data from the past to help think about the future. But no, I'm really glad that, I was confident that was going to be kind of your answer. I do have a follow-up, like separate, and I don't want to take too much time up here on the stage, but it's related to really the Polygon ecosystem growing with, starting with Disney and now seeing Starbucks kind of jumping in there too, and specifically around the way that Starbucks has positioned the sort of tech naive, and by staying away from using blockchain words and really, it's a totally separate thing, right? It's just loyalty points, and it's just different. Are you watching to see how they do that, and is that going to be part of potentially a future strategy in terms of, I know the word crypto is in crypto unicorns, but as we see in these second party games, the word isn't in there.
Yes,
and being able to,
Yep.
I'll stop there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely, the reason the word crypto is not in Unicorn Party and Rainbow Rumble and Unagachi is because, we want these second party games to potentially on-ramp wider audiences who might be by default skeptical of the space just generally, right? And you've seen like kind of Facebook, fucking Meta, that, we have like one of the most valuable companies in the world pivot to the space that we've been in, which I think is, I've never really liked Zuckerberg, but he's pretty good at knowing where the puck is going to go and how he moves. So it's exciting to see a company rebrand like that. But, they're calling them digital collectibles, right? They don't call them NFTs. I'm totally fine with digital collectibles, right? I'm not going to die on the hill of calling it, non-fungible token, just like nobody talks about fucking MP3s anymore in music, right? So generally we are, even in conversations with some of the streaming services and stuff, we're not necessarily leading with the idea that this is like, that it needs to remain like crypto unicorns. There's a lot of different like kind of softer ways to, I think, pitch and approach it. I think one of the things we're taking out of this though is there's kind of potential to lean into some of the like dark forest narrative, ideas of like self-sovereign identity and pushing back against centralized control and institutions and stuff. And we're trying to build some of that into the stories we approach writers and things, because I think there's a way to kind of pitch the ideals of the blockchain space without hammering on all these damn terms that, people don't necessarily, well, it just increases the cognitive load, if you're throwing a bunch of buzzwords at people. So generally with second party, We want to try to separate ourselves a little bit. And you're going to have things where like you buy these vouchers to play in game for Unicorn Party, right? And that helps us avoid Apple's anti-stance towards blockchain games and NFTs just kind of in general and stuff. And so, yeah, I'm watching those kind of things very closely. The experiments from the Polygon team, as you've kind of seen, as you mentioned, are all very interesting. I'm not going to die on the hill of calling it any one thing, and I think naturally we'll arrive at the right terminology long term.
Awesome. Thank you for your answers, Sparkly Stealthy. Thanks for bringing me up. Aha, thanks.
Thank you so much, Johnny. All right. So now let's move on to written questions. Stealthy, you got something for me?
I haven't seen a lot of support for them amongst the community. I know Time Traveler's pushing to get the number of lands up. I think it's a little bit telling that Haku is kind of forcing us to do that before they list us on their own homepage. If you guys want that, it's as simple as going and listing enough land to get us there. I think that's a great idea. I'm very happy to see Time Traveler pushing on it because we should experiment to see if they actually have a shot at driving any meaningful volume for us. So I may have misinterpreted that question as to whether or not we're listing them within our site or if we're just trying to get crypto unicorns listed on the homepage. In my opinion, Haku should have listed us on the homepage by default day one, and it's a little frustrating that they didn't. I kind of understand the game that he's playing to try and get enough inventory built before you do, so I do understand it on some level. I think it is well worth putting enough land up there to get us on their homepage to see if it will drive meaningful volume, given they have solved the OpenSea issue because they're listening for lock and unlock events. So there's certainly, I think, short to midterm benefits for us as a community in testing that to see if it will drive meaningful volume for sure.
All right, so that is the answer to your questions about Haku. All right, let's have another written question.
Okay, another written question. So there are a number of people asking it. So we've got the farming trailer, and we're really excited and anticipating for the jousting trailer. Will we ever get a shadow corn trailer?
Yes. The Shadowcorn trailer is kind of next in the sequence post jousting, going to be used as kind of a teaser towards the ultimate the War for the Dark Forest, which is Act 2, which will follow the Shadowcorn staking minigame, which I believe the team has actually named, and I keep forgetting what the hell that name is. I'll look it up and throw it out here in a sec.
I remember the name and I love it, but in case I remember it wrong, I'm going to let Aron mention it.
Well, you should throw it out there. Take a shot.
Something about throwing shade?
Oh, yeah. Something like that. Yeah, Shadowcorn's Throwing Shade is the name of that minigame, so I'm
Oh,
kind
hell yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. That is going to be a fun one.
Okay, guys, we're definitely getting a shadow corn CGI trailer. Like, can we get how excited is General for that? What is going
That
on?
one's going to be a lot of fun because you introduce the bad guys. I think it's just going to be, I don't know. I'm so happy that the CGI trailer turned out how it did. We've received really phenomenal feedback on it. And yeah, I think it kind of starts as the spark to us building some really compelling story and stuff over time. And as we engage the community around the UGC side to help us generate the lore here in the coming weeks, on these kind of lore generation events, the community can kind of have a part and a hand in helping shape that overall narrative, which I think is really, really sweet.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Time Traveler just said 50 Shades of Shadow Coins. That's not the genre we're going for, buddy. There's
I
a
don't know.
family.
You might be onto something there. You might be. I'll take that back to the team.
Oh no, not like
Everybody's
this.
asking about how we grow. I think the universal human thing is sex sells. So I don't know. Let's think about it a little bit.
Oh boy.
I think we're leaning towards, jokes aside, I think we're leaning towards humor and comedy, which came out a bit in the first trailer.
Mhm.
That's probably the safest direction to head on that front, but we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. Okay, it's 11:51. We have 9 more minutes until the end of the town hall. If you want to ask your questions, ask them right now. But in the meantime, let's have another written question.
Okay, so we have Geo 5.0 here. So he asks, "Hi Aaron. Before or in the last AMA, I asked about the development towards Heroes of Might and Magic 3. You wanted to check the game. I have now found out that the creator of the Heroes of Might and Magic series, John Van Canningham, has founded his own blockchain gaming studio. What a coincidence. Anyway, I'm attaching the website here for you. So you might want Aaron might just drop in at town hall questions. So if you so I think Gio wants to refer to this website.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll absolutely check that out. Thank you for sharing.
Nice. Okay, and now we have Rubik coming over to ask his questions. Hey, we missed you,
The
buddy.
only Rubik. It's been a town hall or two. How are you, sir?
Hey mate, I'm good. Bit tired, but I'm just sitting there farming away while you chat
Excellent.
in CU, planting berries. I'm looking forward to only having to do that once a day instead of 3 times a day.
Yep. I think a little bit of efficiency there is definitely warranted for sure. I love the fact that everybody kind of toiled, and then now we're kind of going to make that improvement. It'll be helpful. And again, day one players are not going to have access to that because they're going to need upgraded workshops and all the kind of things that players who've been grinding to date do. So we kind of keep a little bit of separation there and give advantage to those who are progressed versus not. With kind of an initial goal. So I like the idea that you kind of earn your stripes doing the 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 collects a day, right? And then, you graduate to being able to leverage the seed bag features. So yeah, I'm pumped for that as well.
I just don't have time to do any planning around crafting because of the time I do spend on it. It's just planting berries every single time. So I'm looking forward to spending that time that I don't have to do that into actually thinking about the game a bit more.
Yep.
I was just thinking, my question kind of like some major announcement got announced tonight from Guild of Guardians from IMX. They've just signed 8 esports teams to have in-game characters that you can play that represent their brand inside the game. And the internet's just blowing up like crazy over it. And I just thought, is there something that the unicorns could do like that? So maybe, like where the unicorn could have a skin or something that represented, something not necessarily an esports organization, but another organization that could be like branding for them within the game. That's my question to you. Just thoughts around that.
Yeah, I think tribes and decorators are the features that come to mind with respect to that, right? Decorators and defenses, I guess I should say. And that gives us the opportunity to start to add a lot of customization. So you can imagine props and kind of custom items and decorators, right? That represent, brands, whether they're esports or other brands, right? Like I'm out trying to find a brand that effectively wants to finance a marketing campaign by anyway, there's a bunch of brands we're trying to reach out to kind of get an event generated around that, a competition and a leaderboard, and then obviously if you kind of achieve various tiers of that leaderboard, there'd be kind of like a decorator that you get that kind of acts as a trophy, right? And especially when tribes open up, everybody starts to bring their land kind of together. You've got something to kind of show off. So no, I really love a lot of those ideas. We're very close with Ryan Wyatt, who's the CEO of Polygon Studios. he was a professional streamer for quite some time. Was at YouTube Gaming, was instrumental in like Dr. Disrespect and Tim the Tapman leaving Twitch and going to YouTube Gaming. So he's very well plugged into that scene. He fell off his chair when he saw like Rainbow Rumble and stuff. And we're talking about leveraging him to make intros on that front, both on kind of the esports side as well as some of these like larger streamers that are not in the NFT crypto Twitter space, right? So definitely lines up with a lot of what we are thinking about for sure.
Cool. And on a really different note, I was just thinking about lately, like the cost of breeding. I feel like that is inhibiting the growth of the price of RBW because like people are settling on what they think a unicorn is worth, and in my opinion, this is. So I just wanted to get your thought on this as well. Like it's 150 RBW to breed out a full-grown unicorn, and at $10, say RBW, that would be what, $1,500. Like for a unicorn. Am I right? My math's right there? And I just don't think that they're worth that. And then like the days of gaming NFTs being worth thousands of dollars, I think, is over. Like it's they're going to be worth a cent or a dollar on average. They think that's what people are saying. Is there any thoughts around that? And then potentially, like, because I'd like to see RBW go back up again to at least $3-4, and I don't think it's going to do that when there's so much cost to going into a unicorn. And I know you need to have it now to suck the RBW out of the system, but do you agree with me? Do you think that's holding back the price of RBW? Are you allowed to comment on that?
I guess I partially agree with that. Of course, you could make kind of the counter argument that if we reduce those costs, you see inflation of the NFT supply and the NFT price continues to collapse. And so we'll get complaints on that side, right? And so it's like, what assets ultimately do we care about over the long term? I've always maintained there will be certain NFTs like Shadowcorns and Land that have this fixed supply and thus ongoing kind of long-term rarity. And, therefore, if there's demand and interest in the game over the long term, you could expect those assets to do very well. RBW is what we should all be aligned around. That's where we should be all kind of aligned around. And so to your point, raising that and getting that back up to a multi-dollar price is certainly the goal and top of mind for us. I would argue that if the price of Unum were to rise and sustain, that you'd see natural lift kind of across the board because Unum is kind of the commodity asset being produced via the active deployment and usage of the NFT assets, the unicorn assets and land. If you see that come up, obviously I would expect the price of RBW to come up as people demand more for breeding. So I'm a little bit wary about right now reducing breeding costs because that may have a kind of negative effect on the oversupply of Unum because there'll be more assets out there. Those assets are lower in value. Definitely from the beginning, we said we would move those numbers up and down based on where things are at. So I would kind of like say, let's check in 60 days from now and see how growth plans are kind of going and make an evaluation on that front. But I'm open to counter arguments or any, holes you can kind of poke in my logic on that front, Rupert.
I know I'm not a game expert. That's just what I was thinking. Like I just think if I'm going to buy a unicorn, and I'm never going to pay $1,000 for one ever again. Like no matter how good this game gets, and therefore that would mean that the RBW could never get to $10 again. That's just the way I look at it. I might be completely stupid thinking that way, but that's just that's the very minimalistic idea of it. I think the problem gets solved if you find some way to burn unicorns and make it like so that therefore you've got to constantly breed because you've got to constantly burn unicorns. That's something that could make
yes.
You could reduce the RBW cost because you have to burn unicorns.
Yes, and that is absolutely why the shadow corn feature is kind of essential long term, right? Because it will provide that deflationary pressure on the overall unicorn supply, as you both need unicorns to ascend the shadow corns as well as other unannounced use cases. I mean, someone has to work the shadow corn land, right?
You have to
So
remember
there's some
something else.
interesting things there. But I agree, it's all kind of about balance. I think what's really interesting is we have 60,000 corns. The vast majority of them are actively used in gameplay daily. Um, and we're at 2,000 wallets. So how many corns are needed when we're at 20,000, when we're at 100,000 wallets, right? And that to me speaks to an enormous need for, kind of Unim and RBW. But again, to your point, we have to balance that overall cost. And I think the initial focus is on the price of Unim, growing protocol owned liquidity, seeing that as a driver to new entrants entering the economy, and then via the battle loops and all this skill based kind of PvP on a spectrum from like kind of more pure RNG with some skill, which is like jousting, because you have to choose potions, you have to kind of choose the right tournaments for your corn, all the way up to Team RPG, which is meant to be like our full pillar of skill-based gameplay, right? And the rewards available to people who take corns and go into those loops and are the most strategic, the most competitive, who win, they're going to win out pretty big. So it is a balancing act. It's something that we'll obviously continue to monitor and make adjustments as needed. But right now, I want to see what happens when we double the wallets, when we triple the wallets, when we quadruple the wallets. And my expectation is that things kind of work themselves out. But if not, man, we'll make adjustments. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this space as we evolve based on data.
Can I ask another question? One more, just a quick one. Cool. About the people coming into the game, I think like it's going to be more fun for people to play crypto unicorns outside of farming. Like farming's not the funnest thing in the world. Look, it's okay. And there's people that like that kind of thing a bit more than others. But with these games they've announced, they're really fun. I'd like to play them. If people are going to own unicorns but not land, is that going to be possible? And if so, how are they going to get the berries and the stuff for those unicorns where they can't produce it on their own land? Like, is it like you just going to have to buy it?
Yeah, so in the same way that you have access, that they will have access to the Rainbow Token Marketplace. And so if they're not interested in the farm sim, but they're looking to joust, like they'll go and need to buy potions off the market from people producing those potions, right? And being able to buy berries and things of that nature to replenish energy and things of that, that's kind of how we integrate, or how we plan to integrate the battle loop economy inside of the farm sim economy. And that's kind of the beauty of it. The demand on those loops will drive demand for the commodities the farms are producing. And I think we'll see more and more people on ramp kind of into the farm sim. I would say that like on a long time horizon, I want this to be like the thing that people talk about as like Farmville, right? Like Farmville was a very, very popular game that is still played to this day by millions of people, right? We've only got 1 million plots of land. So I think on a longer time horizon, we will find ways. And I've been very thankful as we've learned more about our players and had players reach out to us. It's been very exciting to find and hear from people who really do enjoy the farms sim side of things. And with tribes, with decorations, as we move in that direction where there's more customization, and that's where a lot of, I think, the long-term fun will come from on that front. But I agree with you. I think generally the battle loops in aggregate for the system to sustain should actually attract way more players than the farm sim over time. And that's great. The farm sim being limited supply should allow us to create the sustainable economic system in which those who are being strategic in the gameplay around the economy sim are going to be able to earn as a result of that, right? Where the people going into the battle loops are taking more risk and a bet on their ability and skills, on the PvP front.
Yeah, I've been thinking like when the jousting comes out, there's a real opportunity to create a free-to-play aspect to crypto unicorns where you could give everyone, like every single wallet gets a piece of land on it, and on that centerpiece you get the buildings, the core buildings that are needed for the games, like jousting, racing, RPG, and you can get 2 farm plots, and you get a marketplace, but you cannot sell on the marketplace. You can only buy on that free to play, and the amount of sort of NFT based land you have is how many donkeys can go and sell stuff. So if you've got a common land, it's one marketplace donkey at a time. If it's a mythic, it's 3. If it's the rare, it's 2, and therefore you can only have a certain amount of selling at once as well. You can limit the selling amount, and therefore you'd have people be able to grow a little bit of berries, not much, because you only get 2 plots, and they get a little bit of feel for the game. And anyway, that's my thoughts. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because that would be a way easier way to bring people into the game, to give them a bit of a taste of it before actually having to fork out cash to buy land and stuff. But I don't know. That was just a thought, not a question. Thanks for having me up here, and keep on keeping on. Thanks for doing everything you do, Aaron, and the team.
Yeah, I appreciate it. As always, staying up late, Rubik. Thank you for coming up. And did we hit the end of the hour? I think we did. Are there any? It doesn't look like anyone else. I guess we're at the end here.
Yeah, we're good. This is the end of the hour. Thank you so much, Rubik. We missed you. Woo-hoo. By the way, everybody, please remember that we will have a maintenance period approximately 1 hour after this town hall. This will take approximately 12 hours. That means that the maintenance period will start at around 10 a.m. PST or 5 p.m. UTC and end at 10 p.m. PST or 5 p.m. UTC. There's an announcement over at the maintenance channel with a timestamp that automatically adjusts to your time zone, so give it a look. We'll also let you know when the maintenance period is over. Please note that the game will not be available during this window. It's possible that your account might get in a bad state if you attempt to play during the maintenance period, so don't do it. You listened to your request and have made the game unplayable during the maintenance period. While waiting, take a look at the What's New for CU by checking out the Game Updates channel. And that's it. That is the end of the town hall. We'll see you next week for the weekly town hall number 16. We will post a recording of this town hall on our socials if you would like to give it a re-listen. Don't forget to share this with your friends and fellow unicorn fans who couldn't make it. If you have more burning questions, feel free to reach out on our support channels, the Mod Support channel and the Ask the Dubs channel. This has been Sparkly Unicorn with co-host Sparkly Unicorn. Good morning, good night, and see you in game, Unicorn fam. Woo!
Woo!
What the heck was that? Give me more uwu. That wasn't
Ooh.
okay.
That's all you
enough.
get from
All
me.
Ugh. Selzy, why you leave us thirsty? Why you gotta be like this? See you next week, Unicorn fam.
Bye bye, guys. Wow,
Bye.
we
You're
really
gonna
come
get
so
so
far.
tired of us in
Town
October.
Hall 16 coming soon.
Yeah. And even before this, there were a bunch of other town halls with different numbering.
Yeah.
AMAs. Monthly AMAs. Then it
Mhm.
became weekly. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for your support. You will get real tired of us in October, although I hope you don't, because it's gonna be